Um, my name is Lester Brooks. I teach in history department at Anne Arundel Community College.
My name is Susan Firestone. I'm a retired patent attorney from Fort Wayne, Indiana. Oh, you're muted.
Hi, I'm Tim Moore from the Center for the Study of the American Constitution, just up the road here at University of Wisconsin in Madison. It's great to be here.
And you are?
Hi, we're excited to testify for you today. My name is Vanessa Fuentes.
I'm Kareem Alvarado.
My name is Alani Torres. We are coached by my teacher, Mr. Zach Maslenka, and we represent Chicago Hope Academy.
Okay, let's get to work. We have Unit 2, question number 1. What were the major disagreements among the 55 delegates during the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia, and how were they resolved? What issues, if any, were not resolved, and what were the consequences? What changes, if any, should be made to the Constitution? You may begin.
The structure of the executive and judicial branch, the Bill of Rights, and the power of federal government were some of the major disagreements among the delegates during the Constitutional Convention. Under the disagreements of the executive branch, Hamilton argues in Federal 70 that there should be a single executive opposed to multiple in order to prevent conflict. A single energetic executive is able to make his own decisions with the accountability of Congress. Anti-Federalists did not want a strong executive because they would argue it would make America tyrannical. Federalists disagree because they believe it will limit the power of an executive branch. Furthermore, the delegates disagree on federal court system. Hamilton supports judicial review in Federalist 78, arguing the judicial branch is weaker than the executive and the legislative branches. The power of the judicial branch is to interpret the Constitution, making judicial review necessary. The Bill of Rights was also a major disagreement in the Constitution. In Federalist 84, Hamilton argues that the Bill of Rights was not necessary because the body of the Constitution itself limits the government's power. Some Federalists feared that the certain rights would be ignored or violated, even if they were not listed in the body of the Constitution. In agreement with the Anti-Federalists, the Bill of Rights were ratified. The disagreement between state and federal power were addressed in Federalist 45, which states, the power of the delegates by proposed constitution to the federal government are few and defined. Those that are remains in the state government are numerous and defined. This argues that the Constitution is necessary for the balance of power between states and the federal government.
The issue of slavery was not resolved during the Constitutional Convention. That the Civil War, which required the nation to ratify the Reconstruction Amendments. The framers did not abolish slavery at the convention, and as a result, left the states to decide the status of slavery in order to keep the nation reunited. As stated by John Jay to the president for promoting the manumission of slaves, he states, the importance of the Union rendered it necessary that their wishes on that height should in some degree be gratified. The Constitution counted people as 3/5 of a person for the purpose of representation, and also prohibited the importation of enslaved people after the year 1808 in Article 1, Section 9. Still, slavery was not resolved, but rather protected by the Fugitive Slave Clause in Article 4, Section 2, stating no person held to service or labor in one state escaping into another be discharged shall be delivered upon the claim of the party to whom such service or labor may be due. This was in the case Dred versus Sanford, which led to the divide between the North and South due to the abolitionist movement and eventually the Civil War. After the Civil War, the 13th Amendment was ratified, abolishing slavery in the U.S. The 14th Amendment addressed citizenship rights and equal under the law. The 15th Amendment remember citizens the right to vote.
Yes, changes should be made to the Constitution to ensure that it can be applied to modern day issues.
Eleni, can you speak up, please? Speak up a little bit, please.
Yes, changes should be made to the Constitution to ensure that it can be applied to modern day issues. Some of the 18th century provisions found in the Constitution, along with the issues that the framers did not resolve, are no longer applicable in a modern society. The Declaration of Independence states that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute a new government. Changes such as allowing citizens of U.S. territories the right to vote and receive voting representation in Congress should be considered. These territories deserve nothing less than the full rights of citizenship, including the right to vote. Some might argue that no changes should be made to the Constitution because even though it was ratified over 200 years ago, the framers designed it to be relevant to modern day issues and principles. They designed the Constitution in a way to protect the governed through the system of checks and balances. The framers recognized that changes would need to be made, which is why they gave us an open invitation to change the Constitution through Article 5. Thank you. We are now ready for your questions.
Okay, thank you. And we will now have some follow-up questions. Tim, you're going to jump in?
Sure. I'd like to ask you guys if you think those delegates that went to Philadelphia, I mean, they were sent there to do one thing, and they actually wrote a whole new constitution. Should we be critical of them for not following their instructions?
No, because they recognized that the Articles of Confederation were too weak to even be altered, and they realized that in order to create a strong government that the United States did need, they did have to create a whole new constitution. So no, I do not think we should be critical for
that. Thank you.
You mentioned that Alexander Hamilton thought that we should have a strong executive. Do any of you agree with his opinion? Why? And if you could support that?
I do believe that we do need a strong executive. We need an energetic president to be able to feel like he needs to make decisions that are right for the people. If we don't, and like, for example, with habeas corpus, when it's like, when they polish it for a little bit, like with Abraham Lincoln, when he got rid of habeas corpus for a while, he did it for the right for the people, and so that they could win the Civil War. If he didn't do that, then we wouldn't have won the war, and America wouldn't be the way it is now. So I feel like we need an energetic president that is willing to do it for the rights of the people. That makes sense.
Do we need to lengthen the terms for the presidency? Why limit them to 2 terms?
No, their term should not be lengthened because George Washington recognized when he was president that lengthening the terms of an executive would just lead to tyranny.
But what if we, the people, want that president? If the country is based on we, the people, and we want that president, why can't we have that president?
The president's terms are specified in the Constitution, and in order for us to lengthen the president's terms, we will have to pass an amendment.
And we should do that? Would you be in favor of doing that? Oh, look at Vanessa, she's thinking.
I would say no, because giving that amount of power to one person is like, it could control your minds in a way for you to think you're, I guess, cocky and all high and mighty to the point where it can become tyrannical, because having so much power is just, one mind just can't take that and become humble. So one must pass that power on to remain humble.
Okay, thank you.
Do you think the secrecy of the convention was a good idea?
I think it was a good idea because if people knew about what they were talking about, people would want to have their own opinions, have their own sides. It would just create so much conflict, because if people were putting their own opinions into the convention, it would just become very, controversial, and if they would want to create things for their own self needs rather than for everybody, for like the common good. So if we just leave it to the people, then it just wouldn't, I don't think it would work out.
Let me jump in here and ask this. As you know, slavery wasn't resolved. Why didn't they just resolve it right then and there instead of letting things fester over the succeeding generations? Why didn't they resolve it right then and there?
Slavery wasn't resolved because they wanted the states to be remain united, and in order to ratify the Constitution, all the states had to agree on it, and they wouldn't have the southern states wouldn't be able to agree on ratifying the Constitution if they resolved slavery right then and there.
Okay, all right. Let me, do we have time? Okay. Anyone have any more questions?
Actually, I can ask a question. So we harken back to talking about judicial review. Do you think that the Constitution they came up with was too broad in what they, or was it too broad, or was it too narrow when they specify what Article 3 powers would be? Do you think they even anticipated judicial review?
Can you please can you
sure.
A little bit? I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think at the convention when they wrote Article 3, do you think that they understood or that they thought that we would have the judicial review we have today with like the US Supreme Court and overriding laws? And
I do think they understood because they created the Constitution to prevent tyrannical government, which is something they didn't want. And in order to prevent that, they created checks and balances, the system to ensure that each branch checks another branch, which is, yeah.
You're fine, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing fine.
Yeah, they created the system of checks and balances to ensure that no other branch of government would have more power over another, which is also, yeah, ensure that no branch of government would have power over the other. And judicial review is a form of that. So I think that is something that the founders did want.
I just have a point of clarification that I wanted. I think, is it Kareem or Kareemi? Ken? You mentioned John Jay, but I think there was a computer glitch and I didn't catch it. Can you summarize what you said about John Jay again, please?
What I said about John Jay was that he stated that in order for like the states to remain united, like their like interests should be like gratified and they should be like considered. So like that's why one of the reasons why slavery was still wasn't considered illegal.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you very much. We'll now have some feedback from the judges.
Yeah, I thought your opening statement was pretty solid. You took us through several of the slave clauses and mentioned how they played into all the bargaining that took place at Philadelphia. And I think it's interesting that you made the argument that we need some changes because the Declaration of Independence allows for us to make changes. I thought that's an interesting move on your part to invoke the Declaration. I didn't expect that. Now, my follow-up to that would be, okay, what about the amendment clause in the Constitution? And there's not a right or wrong answer to that, by the way, but I just think it was an interesting move that you made to go to the Declaration as the basis of why there should be some changes. I think in your follow-ups, you were pretty solid. You obviously you mentioned Lincoln and the suspension of habeas corpus, and you seem to infer that it was a good thing to save the Union. And so that I would have liked to spend more time on that. So you've given me a lot of things to think about here, and actually want to further the conversation. And that I always enjoy that when you have sessions with students where I leave wanting to spend more time with you. So I thank you very much for your time, and you should be very, very happy to spend some time with your teacher. He's a good guy, and thank you for spending time.
I also enjoyed your presentation. You had it well thought out. You spent some serious time doing some research, and it made it easy for me to follow along. I too liked hearing the Declaration of Independence brought up, and especially the idea of being able to change things. That if they're not working, maybe we can change them. And you brought up some nice ones about giving the U.S. territories, they don't have full representation. They don't have full citizenship. They're U.S. citizens, but they're not. And that was a nice thing that was brought up, I thought. And you also addressed the idea that the Constitution didn't really address citizenship. It took us another almost 100 years to address that citizenship, and we had more that we had to address and have not addressed yet today. So I enjoyed it, and you might not have enjoyed talking with us, but I had a good time. I wish we had more time, and I bet you're thinking, yeah, it's over.
Yeah.
You did well. Thanks.
You touched a lot of points in that opening. In fact, you were rushing to get through everything. You gave us a lot of information, the executive branch, and should it be a single or multiple? The anti-federalists you brought in against a strong government, it would lead to tyranny. You talked about the Bill of Rights, and was it necessary? And certainly you touched on Madison. And I too like that idea of the Declaration of Independence to alter or to abolish. I thought that was pretty unique to do. And you also brought in one of the follow-ups, the territories and full citizenship, because that is a question that we wrestle with. What do you do with a Puerto Rico or a Guam, even DC? So there's that issue. So a really good job, and best of luck the rest of the way.